Ready? Race!
Let's go. I'm gonna hang on for a minute. For a minute? Until we slide out in this grass, yo. Yeah. Yeah, probably. Shut up! We're winning!
Be left, ladies. Lay him down careful out there. Be careful enough.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another race recap video. This is the Old Hickory Classic cross country race. It takes part at the Lock 4 mountain bike trail that's in Gallatin, Tennessee. Now, this race is just slightly different than the normal cross-country races that I usually do in the Tennessee series. The reason why it's different is they've tried to make it more like World Cup style. And what I mean by that is they have shortened the laps and I do less distance. So most like cross-country Olympic racing is about an hour and a half. So that was really kind of what they were trying to target with this. There's a deer in the way. So that's just to give you a quick kind of rundown of what this race is. Cross-country Olympic is what you see a lot of the professionals like Kate Courtney and Yolanda Neff and Emily Batty. Those races are on Red Bull TV. That's what cross-country kind of is when you talk about it. In comparison, there's cross-country marathon, which I also participate in those races as well. Those are usually closer to 40 miles, 40 to 60 miles in a lot of cases, and that's just the difference between the two. So this course is about 5.5 miles per lap, and I was only required to do 3 laps. So it was a little over 17 miles for the total race, a little over an hour and a half, like I said. So I'm used to racing closer to 2.5 to 3 hours, and that is just a little bit of the differences with this course. The whole point of that is to try to make it more spectator friendly. When you race a 3-hour race and you only see your rider during the transition, like at the start finish, it's really boring for spectating. This course has a couple of spots that are pretty easy to get to for spectators if they did want to watch the race. Anyways, to give you an idea of the trail conditions, as you saw, we started in the grass and it was pretty wet. It rained for quite a few hours the night before. We did go and pre-ride the course and it was really dry, so the rain actually kind of helped the course in a lot of spots. But the routes were still pretty slick. Not too slick, to be honest, but still enough that you wanted to be cautious when riding over any kind of routes that weren't perpendicular to your tire. So I was taking a lot of caution, especially on this first lap, just to make sure I didn't want to crash. As you see, I got the whole shot into the woods. You couldn't see it from the video, but I'm actually racing against 3 other women. One of the things that they do differently at this course is they combine the Cat 1 women and the Cat 2 women. And the reason for that is just because it's a bigger group of women and we have a bigger payout for this race. So in this single race, I won more money than what I normally do at the cross-country races when it's just Cat 1 women. Basically, they did 100% payout plus $100, and that's based on how many people were in your field. So there was 4 of us total. I got into the woods first, and I wanted to just go my pace and leave everybody behind as soon as possible. So I might have went a little bit harder, and then once I noticed that I wasn't really seeing anybody, I just kind of settled in. The way that I usually do that is I try not to spend a lot of time looking behind me. Basically, that first part of the first lap, I just really want to put the power down. I just want to go, and I don't want to look behind. I just want to focus on what I'm doing. And then after I get a couple miles in, turn around, look behind, and kind of get an idea maybe of, is there anyone behind me or not? This right here is really like one of the main climbs of this trail. It's really just called the Jeep climb. It's kind of interesting because it is kind of rocky. Not really technical though, just something that the first time I hit this thing, really the first, the second, and the third time I hit this climb, I tried to put a really good effort in on it because it was really the only kind of longish climb of the entire trail. There are a lot of deer on this trail. Every single lap that I did, I basically had to yell several times at deer to get them to get off the trail. Basically, these deer are just used to people and not scared of them. Most of the time that I see deer on my home trail, they're pretty skittish and they run when they see me, but there's a couple instances in this race where the deer just were hanging out in the middle of the trail, and I yelled at them pretty loud, probably like you would yell at a dog chasing you to get them to go away. And I noticed that in this one corner, there were 3 deer just laying down for all 3 of my laps. So I yelled at them to get their lazy asses up, but they didn't really seem to care too much. Anyways, just focusing back on the race, there's not really a lot of crazy details to report of this race. The course is really fat and not very, really fat. The course is really fast and not very hilly. It's probably a little bit more technical because there is a rock garden that you have to ride. I'm actually gonna go ahead and fast forward the video to the rock garden to show you guys that. All right, here we are at this little rock garden now. These aren't super gnarly rocks in my opinion, and they were pretty dry given all the rain, and that made me excited. So my goal for getting through this rock garden was to actually shift down into an easier gear so that I would be able to spin the pedals if I needed to gain some momentum, and try to carry as much momentum through them as possible also, because I really just wanted to kind of ride over them as quickly as possible and just take kind of a straight line over them. This section right there was a little bit tricky because there was a tree kind of in the way. And then this little part after the rock garden, there's a couple of roots, it's like a very small hill and a root. And the last one, there was a tree right by it. Almost all 3 laps, I tapped my right handlebar on the tree. Nothing major, it just kind of became the way that I rode through that section. But like I said, there wasn't anything to report. I didn't have any crashes during this race, and I stayed at the front the entire race. So, I mean, that was pretty much the goal. This course I've ridden in the past, so I kind of had an idea of how long it would take me and if I could improve on previous efforts. But again, because the course conditions were a little bit different, it's hard to compare to prior years. So I just kind of come out and try to ride everything as good as I can given the conditions. But you know, that the wetness wasn't as bad, but it definitely wasn't dry. And like I said, I was being a little bit cautious because of the roots. Now, the last race that I did was kind of similar, and so I kind of decided to have the same plan. I was going to go out on my first lap and try to stay at the front, but also not take many risks. After I did my first lap, I decided, okay, well, now that I know the course and I have an idea for how slick it is, I'm going to start to push. And that's exactly what I did. And same thing as the last race I did negative splits on this race again. So that's the second time ever I've done that in the race. My first lap was 32 minutes, my second was 31, and my third was 30. So I fast forwarded the video again because I want to show you the only part that I really kind of struggled with. It was this corner right here. This is part of the time trial course, and essentially what happened here was I had to put a foot down because the first time I came through it on my first lap, I did not really remember that was there, and I was in totally the wrong gear. This course is kind of tricky in the fact that you may come down a pretty fast ascent and you hit right into a switchback and immediately turn up. And so my gearing was a little bit off. That's something I noticed in the pre-ride, but I kind of just forgot it a little bit on this first lap. So I kind of struggled right there with the wet roots and coming into that turn and being in the wrong gear. But I had planned to hit it harder, hit it better on the second and the third lap, now that I knew exactly where it was. And then I had to come up the rest of this little climb here, and there was another tricky route at the top that I unfortunately spun my rear wheel on right here and had to put a foot down and actually pushed up just a little bit, got back on the bike, kept going. There's another deer in the background running off. And right here, I thought I heard someone behind me, so I was really trying to kick it into gear to get out of here. But anyways, I'm gonna fast forward to the finish lap here. And this is the end of my third lap right here. I just want to say that I felt a little weird during the race. I didn't really feel like my normal race self. I don't think I ever fully got in full-on race pace, race mind, race mode. I don't know what was off about me this weekend. Everything just didn't feel right. Maybe I just had too much on my mind. I'm not really sure, but it was kind of an odd feeling. But I wasn't like sick or anything, like my stomach didn't feel great, but I was able to ride fairly well. There's that race pace where you're all out, and I don't know if I was ever really all out in this race, but I did finish first. I got first place on the podium, and the really exciting news that I got from this weekend was that there's 2 other girls that were previously Cat 2 that are now Cat 1, so I'm gonna have more competition. So I'm really excited about that, because in some of my previous race videos, I've mentioned racing by myself, racing against myself. So I'm really excited to have some competition coming up. There's a next race in a month. It's going to be the Tennessee State Championship. And I'm really looking forward to doing that race for sure. So that's going to be it for the race recap. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's pretty boring. Like I said, I need like somebody to come and attack, or for me to like crash and have to chase back on. Something more interesting needs to happen. And I kind of had that moment in the middle of the race where I just kind of thought, man, this is boring. I don't know if I want to keep doing this. And this is part of the reason why I'm trying to travel and branch out more. But anyways, that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.